To help us tip off the de facto second half of the season is one of the best in the business, senior lead NBA insider for The Athletic and Stadium, and also our good friend Michelle Beadle, co-hosts Run It Back on FanDuel TV with him and so many others. Shams Charania back on the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Rich, great being on. Appreciate you having me.
No, anytime. So let me ask you to set, I guess, the stage. What do you think is the biggest story that we're going to see tip off starting tonight in the run-up to the playoffs in the association, Shams?
I was just talking about it today on Run It Back, but when you think about it going into this playoff run, there's probably 14 teams across both conferences that really genuinely believe they have a shot in these playoffs and to at least get to the conference finals, the NBA finals. You think about it in the Eastern Conference, Milwaukee, obviously, Boston, Cleveland, New York, Philadelphia, Miami. And then you look out west, Minnesota, OKC, both teams surprising as top seeds in the Western Conference. You have the Clippers, Denver, Phoenix, Dallas, Lakers, Warriors. I mean, that's 14 teams right there. And I guess you have the Pelicans, Kings, kind of on the outer skirts. But the parity in the league right now is so high that there's going to be such expectations going into the playoffs. Realistically, 3-4 teams in each conference will obviously be there at the end. So to me, it's really the parity that we're seeing in the league right now.
So then let's jump on the Bucks, since obviously they're a recent champion that decided to change coaches midstream, and not just to anybody, but to Doc Rivers. What is the challenge that you're hearing about out of Milwaukee to get this thing on the straight and narrow in the remaining few weeks of the season?
Rich, there is a challenge, but listen, obviously there's been a lot of rhetoric. There's been a lot of chatter publicly over the last couple weeks, ever since Doc Rivers took that job with a 30-13 record. Make no mistake, the Milwaukee Bucks this year, the only thing they're playing for and thinking about is winning a championship. This season is very much title or bust in Milwaukee. Does not matter what anyone says. Doesn't matter about excuses, not excuses, whatever. Anytime you have Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo and you fire your coach and you hire Doc Rivers, who's won a championship before, obviously among the top 10 in wins of all time in NBA history, was voted as a top 10 coach of all time. These ingredients are not made for a team that is going to accept or want to be bounced in the second round of conference finals. It doesn't matter the scenario that was taken, that Doc Rivers took this team in. A coaching change was necessary. They needed to make a change. I reported on it extensively in The Athletic. There were issues throughout the locker room with Adrian Griffin systematically, as far as X's and O's, how adjustments were handled, were not handled. There was going to be need for change. Now they did go and make that change. And so you do have to give Doc Rivers some credit. Since he took over this team, which was floundering defensively, they've been a lot better on that end of the floor. Now it's just about putting together wins, having a healthy second half. And I was there in Indy for AllStar Weekend. Damian Lillard had himself a weekend. I mean, you think about three-point contest victory, MVP of the All-Star game, even though both teams had almost 400 points combined. You can't put that on Damian Lillard, because a lot of his points, they were really heaves from like half court. His shooting that was on display was impressive. And you hope that this carries into the second half, because that relationship between him and Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be the most important one in the second half, possibly in the NBA.
Shams Charania, you're here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so many folks who heard you run through the teams that have a shot at doing it might think that you are being generous to put the Lakers in there, but they did finish the first half hot. And what did you make of LeBron's comments at the All-Star game on All-Star Sunday about his future? What can you tell us about your reporting there?
LeBron James, the only thing he's thought about this year is being a Laker. And at the end of the season, he's going to have a decision to make. He has a player option. We know Bronny James, he's been vocal about wanting to play with Bronny James. If Bronny James does indeed come out, we'll see on draft night where he ends up. And LeBron James's player option, over $50 million, that's for after the NBA draft. So we'll know all the answers we need to know by draft week. Where does Bronny James go? How does that impact LeBron James's future? Does LeBron James opt in, play out next season, and then join Bronny James? where does this all lead? I think LeBron is going to get the end of the season, after the season ends, to really decide how he wants the last 2-3 years of his career to play out. But he said it vocally. He's been up front. He knows he's at the twilight of his career. He knows there's not much time left. He was contemplating retirement, or at least was open about the concept of retirement after last season. That's the first time we saw LeBron James even openly mention the concept of retiring. And that alone lets you know that whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, there's only so much time LeBron James has left. But to everything I've reported on, everything I've heard, there was never a trade for LeBron James that was ever going to happen this season. He was going to play this year out with the Lakers, with Anthony Davis, with this group. Now, would he have wanted this team to be more active in trades? Potentially. But they really believe that getting Spencer Dinwiddie on the buyout market for nothing allowed them to really be equipped going to the second half of the season, adding him. And now they'll have 3 first-round draft picks to trade in the offseason if they want to go get a star player, in a potential trade.
And so do you think I'd love to put it this way, what's your reporting on the trade offer that did come from the Warriors for LeBron?
There was none that I know of.
Okay. No offer, no nothing. Was there a phone call from Golden State to Los Angeles that wound up being routed to Rich Paul? Shams?
I'm sure those conversations happen, but anytime you're LeBron James and the Warriors, I will say this trade deadline specifically, they were active. They were making calls. I reported on trade deadline day. They were a guy that they did exchange offers on is Alex Caruso with the Bulls. That is a player, even beyond any conversations with LeBron James, there was actual traction with different concepts and variations with Alex Caruso and the Bulls. Obviously, the deal did not happen. The Bulls had a sky-high asking price for Caruso. No deal got done. But there were more offers, concepts exchanged in that capacity than any others.
Is there anybody in play over the next 6 weeks can get bought out, wind up on a team, make a difference here for a playoff run or playoff push, Shams?
I would look at a few players right now on the buyout market. Marcus Morris, potentially, he could be out there as a candidate to be signed by a playoff contender. Daniel House, another player. He got waived by the Pistons. He was traded by the Sixers. He's played in playoff moments. He's shown himself to be a 3-and-D player when it matters most. Those two guys, to me, immediately jump off the bat as guys that can help a team, a playoff contending team right now. Killian Hayes, another guy that was waived by the Pistons at the trade deadline. He's the guy that's sifting through options. When you think about a young guy, number 7 overall pick, he's only, he's like in his early 20s. He's already made $24 million over his career. Where does he end up? Does he end up on a rebuilding team, playoff team? But those are really just 3 names to keep an eye on over the next week or so.
What's your reporting on the health of the Knicks and how healthy they can get over the next 6 weeks right now?
OG Anunoby had elbow surgery. His return is still weeks away potentially. But Julius Randle, that's a guy to keep an eye on. From what I'm told, he's feeling less and less pain in that shoulder, which is a good thing. He said yesterday surgery still has not been ruled out on that shoulder. He dislocated it a few weeks ago. The hope is that he's going to be able to continue to rehab and get back on the floor and avoid surgery. Any type of surgery you would expect would potentially be season ending for Julius Randle, but he's doing everything he can to not have surgery, avoid it, and return at some point this season.
What do you think about Embiid, Shams? What do you have there?
Joel Embiid is still hopeful that he can return at some point before the playoffs. My reporting when he had the injury a few weeks ago is that it would be a 1 to 2 month injury. So let's say that's at the 6 to 8 week portion of that stretch. That would put him at late March, early April. And the Sixers are hopeful he's going to be able to rehab himself back from that meniscus tear. He had a displaced flap tear in that meniscus. And he's hoping, he's pushing that he can make a return late March, early April.
So basically the way things are looking tonight may be the way teams go into the playoffs, right? I mean, it looks like it. Clearly there's enough time for some of these injuries that you just brought up to heal in time, but there's really no significant names that can get bought out that might might really just shock the system. Like, this is about it. Like, everybody's just going to have to play better or continue to maintain is what it looks like from what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we saw a flurry of trade. I want to say 15 trades, 16 trades on trade deadline day.
Right.
Those were the major deals that happened. Of course, we didn't see an all-star caliber player. The last couple of years, we saw Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, James Harden all traded on trade deadline day or week. This year, there were a lot of players that filled needs. Gordon Hayward in Oklahoma City, he filled the need of a veteran player to come off their bench. If someone's dealing with foul trouble, they can slide him in. P.J. Washington, Daniel Gafford ending up in Dallas. They got some much-needed depth in the front court. Now you look at Dallas, the depth that they have. I know Luka Doncic is very confident in that team going to the playoffs with a healthy Kyrie Irving. Then the Knicks, they're dealing with playoffs, with the playoff run coming into play, and Julius Randle uncertainty, OG Anunoby uncertainty. Well, they just got Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks to replenish their depth. So we saw teams make moves for players. Those are all high-level players. And then Philadelphia, with Joel Embiid out, even when he comes back, potentially having a guy like Buddy Hield providing floor spacing, scoring, shooting, he's going to be able to do that. So you saw teams fill needs, fill holes. We didn't see any star players move, but a lot of the action happened already on deadline day.
So over the All-Star Weekend, Shams, and a few minutes left with Shams Charania here on the Rich Eisen Show, senior lead insider of The Athletic and Stadium and FanDuel TV's Run It Back, and so much more. So while you're strolling around the All-Star game in Indianapolis, which is the team that everybody who's, whispering in your ear, and there's all talk at, parties, bars, or courtside, or, getting ready for a meal and things of that nature. Who's everybody talking about saying, watch out for this team? Who?
Well, I think in season right now you have to, keep an eye on the contenders, right? Boston, Milwaukee. We know the issues Milwaukee's had this year. Over the course of their coaching change, over the last 10 games under Doc Rivers. The contenders are the contenders. And then out west, Warriors, Lakers, which of these teams could see their end of a winning era, a winning stretch? But I think, when you think about transactionally, when you look into the summer, you look ahead, the Atlanta Hawks are in a situation right now where they need to identify their future. And that's a team that definitely has come up around the league as a team to keep an eye on. You have two players, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, all-star caliber players. The Hawks need to decide which area they're going in. Are they trying to rebuild, or are they trying to compete? Quinn Snyder obviously is a coach that wants to win. Him and Young's relationship, from everything I've been told, it's been smooth sailing. It's been a strong one. Where does that organization go this summer with two all-star caliber guards that you might need to make a decision on?
And what's the chatter you're hearing coming off of the All-Star Weekend itself? Ratings up for the game, obviously, but Adam Silver's trophy presentation. Well, congratulations, to the East. It was telling, to say the least. But the numbers were up, and I was talking in my household about Sabrina versus Steph significantly. So what are you hearing? What's the few days later chatter you're hearing about it, Sean?
Yeah, on Saturday night, Sabrina and Steph definitely got the most excitement out of the crowd. And I spoke to Steph Curry late Saturday night, and just hearing him talk about that competition, how much joy he had from that competition. And when he was watching Sabrina Ionescu shoot and score 26 points from the NBA three-point line, like, his confidence was getting lower and lower. He's starting to sweat. He was starting to feel it. But then he goes out there and shows exactly why he's the greatest shooter of all time.
Right.
Has 29 points. But that probably was the most exciting event of All-Star Weekend from the fans' perspective, player perspective, league perspective. Obviously, everyone was down about the All-Star game. Anytime two teams score almost 400 points in the All-Star game,
Right.
That's not the recipe for a successful competitive All-Star game. But, I think you have to look within, if you're the players, to figure out the competitiveness that it takes, especially down the stretch of games. I know one thing. This is from the NBPA as well. Andre Iguodala, Larry Bird, Dr. J all went into that pregame locker room on Sunday, told the players, this is why we have the God-given ability to go out and compete, play defense, play hard, show why we're the greatest players in the world. We want you guys to do that. And then the players end up, it ends up being really a layup fest. So we'll see how and if the NBA can change things up for next year.
So they did go in the locker room, huh? They did. And so what happened? Because Joe Dumars apparently was supposed to be, or not supposed to, he delivered significant messages to these players. as well leading up. So what happened?
Yeah, Andre Iguodala, the MVP executive director, Larry Bird, Julius Erving, Dr. J. We know those guys are legends. One of the two of the greatest players in the history of the game. They all went into the pregame locker room, and the messages that they gave the players is there's a reason why you're here. We're here to show why we're the greatest players in the world, and that comes through competition. It comes with playing defense, playing hard. Obviously, that message did not seem like it was received.
It did not. Send my best to Beetle. Will you please, Shams? Do that for me?
I will, Rich. Appreciate you.
Appreciate the time as well. Shams Charania on Run It Back with Michelle Beadle and Chandler Parsons, Lou Williams, who's dynamite, at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on FanDuel TV and FanDuel TV Plus. And obviously, I follow you with the Athletic and Stadium as well. Thanks for the time, sir.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
You betcha. That's Shams Charania right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.